everyone, Lauren here. So the question for this week was, how might different spiritual and moral frameworks influence the way people experience and respond to life events? So I feel like the two big frameworks from chapter 3 that come to mind here are James Fuller's faith development stages and then Lawrence Kohlberg's moral development stages. And I feel like there's sort of this divide here to where if you identify as being a spiritual religious person, you might be more interested in looking at Fuller's stages. And then if you see yourself more as like a secular person, you're looking at Kohlberg's moral stages. But I feel like I would sort of argue that even though like your religious preferences or your spiritual preferences might change your specific moral values, I would argue that every person would go through moral development the same way. And so there's no reason why spiritual people wouldn't go through Kohlberg's moral stages as well. And I think that this is kind of an important thing for me to keep in mind, well, and for all of us, when it comes to counseling people that might have different beliefs than us. I feel like spirituality is one of those things that is really personal to some people. It has been the source of a lot of good for some people, but then for others has been the source of a lot of wounds and a lot of traumatic events. And so it kind of has the tendency to divide people and make people of different religious groups feel like they're different. And I just think when it comes to being in a counseling setting and really trying to empathize with our clients and develop that strong therapeutic relationship, I feel like it's really beneficial to see you and your client as similar or the same in some ways. And so, yeah, to sort of make that point, I thought it might be fun to use like a spiritual moral dilemma of my own and go through Kohlberg's model that way to kind of show that even people that have religious beliefs or spirituality, they might go through the same moral development that any person would go through. And so, disclaimer here, if you're Jewish or Christian and I get any of this wrong, I'm sorry. Absolutely feel free to correct me in the responses or anything like that. But I'm trying to make this work for the sake of showing that these two things can kind of work together, and spirituality and morality, it doesn't have to be like you're on one trajectory or the other, I guess is what I'm saying. So yes, the topic that I thought of was keeping the Sabbath holy. So this is part of the Ten Commandments, and it's, essentially, so to keep the Sabbath holy, it means to not work on the Sabbath, which is a little bit ambiguous, right? So when it comes to not working, what constitutes as work or not? Obviously, you're probably not going to be doing your job, but what about, if you're a stay-at-home mom, what about working at the house or doing these things? And so over time, the religious leaders started to add more rules and regulations to the Sabbath, and it became kind of fairly strict and rigorous, and there was this idea of being ritually clean and how certain people were allowed in the temple and certain people weren't. So this obviously kind of creates a dilemma, because not everyone was able to practice, not every Jewish person was able to practice the Sabbath the same way. And so quickly I'll go through these stages. So if you were someone that's in the pre-conventional stage and you were either punishment avoidant or more like self-centered and thinking about what was best for you, and you were Jewish, you would probably just, practice Sabbath the way that the Pharisees and the religious leaders said to practice the Sabbath, right? You'd probably stay home. If you're a kid, you're thinking, why not have a day of rest? Absolutely, that sounds great for me, so I'm going to practice that way. And then if you're in the conventional stages and you're either like conforming to social norms or you're really rule-oriented, then you're also going to be probably just adhering to the Jewish legal structure around the Sabbath, and just going about it the way that they tell you to. And this, I think, is also the stage that the Pharisees were probably stuck in. And I think when there is criticism of the church, even like in modern times, I think that this might be like some people might be in this stage as well. Wanting to do the right things, wanting to be the best that they can be, but like everyone is susceptible to getting stuck in certain moral stages, I think that religious people can also get stuck in this stage. And then from an outsider view, it seems like, religion is all about rules and all about structure and all about, obedience, when in reality, if you're looking at these stages in the same way, the end goal of religion is the same as a moral secular person, in that, you know, the goal is to be a person of love. The goal is to be a social advocate. The goal is to be someone that thinks about the well-being of everyone, right? And so I think, similar to anyone else, any secular person, religious people can advance to this post-conventional stage as well. And that's when you kind of start to step outside of your personal bubble and you start to think about, okay, what's the greatest good for everyone? So in this example, if you're in this stage, you're going to realize, wow, there's some people that don't get to practice this holy day the same way. And I'm going to do what I can to help them out so that way they get the same experiences as everyone else. And I think an example of this was Jesus, because Jesus was commonly criticized for healing on the Sabbath, right? And so he saw that, like, yes, obviously he was Jewish and he wanted to abide by the laws, but he also saw that there's injustice happening and certain people are getting excluded from practicing the same way because they have an illness or impairment. And so he sort of made a public spectacle of healing on the Sabbath in order to make a stand for that social justice movement of equality and fairness among everyone. And so I think, I think that's it. Hopefully I said everything right, and I'm sorry if I misinterpreted anything, but the point here is that obviously, like, certain religious groups and spiritual groups are going to have different specific moral values, but I think that we are similar in our moral development, and I think that looking for those similarities is going to help us be empathetic, loving, considerate counselors of the clients that come in from different faith backgrounds. So yeah, I hope you guys have a good rest of your week.